Matthew chapter 2, 1 to, I think we end up going to 11. Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. About that time, some wise men from the eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem asking, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose, and we have come to worship him." Right? They landed in Jerusalem and they went to the palace because, logic, where else are you going to look for a newborn king? Found out actually you've got to go and look in Bethlehem. And so they headed off to Bethlehem. And after the interview that they had in the palace, the wise men went their way, and the star that they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem. It went ahead of them and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy, and they entered the house, saw the child with his mother, Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Matthew chapter 5, 14 and 16. You are the light of the world. Like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden, no one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy, and they went in and worshipped him. When they see your good deeds shining for all to see, they will praise your heavenly Father. Philippians chapter 2, 14 and 16 from the Message. Do everything readily and cheerfully. No bickering or second guessing allowed. Go out into the world uncorrupted, a breath of fresh air in this squalid and polluted society. Provide people with a glimpse of good living and of the living God. Carry the light-giving message into the night. Squalid and polluted society, that's a bit harsh. But if you just come back into the physical world for a little bit, the reason why your paper straw goes soggy in the cup now is because the ocean is full of pollution that is a facsimile, a fake of what the sea life eats to survive. And they're chomping down on plastic bags and plastic straws and dying because they're not getting the real thing. It's all fake. Carry the light-giving message into the night. The title of this message is Go Out Where It's Deeper, Glow in the Dark. If you have your pew Bibles, if you didn't bring your Bible today, they're in the baskets along the walls, on the floor. The person on that thing, if you can hand them out. We're going to be reading from Mark chapter 5. And in the Jesus and You Bible, it's page 49. It's also going to be up on the screen because the print might be easier to read. So, Mark chapter 5, page 49 in the Jesus and You Testament. Okay. I can still hear some pages turning. Is that because you're still looking or something else? All right, so Mark chapter 5 starts off, so they arrived on the other side of the lake. A little bit of background, just if you're in the Jesus and You, just down the bottom of the page 48, or the end of Mark chapter 4. It's the end of the day, and Jesus says to his disciples, let's go across to the other side of the lake. And so they all jumped in the boat and they went across to the other side of the lake. They rowed it about 7 kilometres or sailed. I don't know how long they sailed actually, because while they were crossing the lake, a great big storm came up. Waves, wind, screaming, drowning, sleeping. Jesus wakes up and he says, "Peace, be still." And I don't know how far across the lake they got before the storm hit. And I don't know how far the storm blew them off course. And then Jesus calms the storm. And my question is, how still is still? Because they had to maybe row the rest of the way. So they arrived at the other side of the lake. They might be damp still from when the waves were crashing in the boat. They might be chafed from when they're rowing in damp clothes. They might be tired because they rowed all night. It's the end of the day when they get in the boat, so is it nighttime when they arrive at the other side of the lake? I don't know. It's one of the questions that I've got. When I get to heaven, I'm going to ask Peter, how still was still? Okay. Right, so they arrived on the other side of the lake in the region of the Gerasenes. And when Jesus climbed out of the boat, a man possessed by an evil spirit came out from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the burial caves and could no longer be restrained, even with a chain. And trust me, they tried. Whenever he was... I can't read. Here we go. Whenever he was put into chains and shackles, and he often was, he snapped the chains from his wrist and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Day and night, he wandered among the burial caves and in the hills, howling and cutting himself with sharp stones. These people that have crossed the lake with Jesus, about 30% of them have spent a majority of their working life on the lake in the middle of the night fishing. If the conditions are right, they've been hearing this sound for a while, howling coming from the other side of the lake. So they get to the other side of the lake, they get out of the boat, and 33% of the disciples go, that's what that sound was. And the rest of them go, what is that coming running at them? Okay, he was whenever he was put into chains and shackles, he snapped the chains from his wrists, and so he broke out of chains. I don't want to get too graphic right now, but this is a picture of elephant skin versus chain. And the chains aren't broken. That's just whole chains. This guy, human skin, dealing with broken metal chains. I'm going to guess that he's a little bit of a mess with wounds because he's so out of control that he breaks out of chains and he doesn't hang around for medical care. Even though medical care at that time is, cauterising the wounds with a hot sword or packing it with salt. So this guy is scarred up. And he comes running out to meet Jesus. When Jesus was still some distance away, the men saw him, ran to meet him and bowed low before him. With a shriek he screamed, "Why are you interfering with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In the name of God, I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had already said to the spirit, "Come out of the man, you evil spirit." Then Jesus demanded, "What is your name?" And he replied, "My name is Legion, because there are many of us inside this man." And the evil spirits begged him again and again not to send them to some distant place. Did you ever get told a story or were telling someone a story and you're going along, you're telling facts, and then you realise, to understand this next bit, I've got to let you know that before this bit happened. That's just happened when Mark is telling this story. Okay, so that it happens like this. Jesus gets out of the boat. He sees this man, howly, broken, beat up, just crazy eyes. I'm going to guess that his hair's not even brushed. Okay, and he comes running at it and running at them, and Jesus, understanding what's going on, says, "You evil spirit, depart." And then the evil spirit goes, "Oh, that's not fair. Why are you even here?" he has a tantrum because you're not even supposed to be on my side of the lake. This is my side of the lake. Why are you here? That was my impression of a demon having a temper tantrum. It might have been a bit more growly, who knows. And Jesus demanded, what is your name? We read demanded in our language and we think that, Jesus asked angrily or just like crinkly. He actually just had to ask loudly because there was a lot of noise going on. Hey, what's your name? Talking over the demon, not to the demon. Because you read the rest of the story and Jesus never mentions the demon by name. He wasn't asking the demon who he was. He was asking the man. He'd already dealt with the demon. You evil spirit, depart. Hey, now what's your name? And just for my own amusement, I like to think that it's the first century Middle Eastern equivalent of Brian. But we all know him as Legion. Okay, my name is Legion because there are many of us inside this man, and the demon keeps talking, please don't send us back to some distant place. And this translation says some distant place. Some distant place is very hot, smells like sulphur, and a little bit gnashing of teeth. And seriously, how bad does hell have to be that even the demons don't want to go back? And so they do this negotiation. There happened to be a large herd of pigs feeding on the hillside nearby. Send us into those pigs, the spirits begged. Let us enter them. And Jesus gave them permission. The evil spirits came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the entire herd, about 2,000, ran down the steep hillside and drowned in the lake. And the herdsmen fled into the nearby town and the surrounding countryside, spreading the news as they ran, and people rushed out to see what had happened. A crowd soon gathered around Jesus, and they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons. He was sitting there fully clothed and perfectly sane. And they were all afraid. Then those who had seen what had happened told the others about the demon-possessed man and the pigs, and the crowd began pleading with Jesus to go away and leave them alone. Oh yeah, totally forgot to tell you. Bleeding, broken skin, crazy eyes, wild hair, and the dude was nude. That's a lot going on. Jesus deals with the demon and then relates to the man. Where did the clothes come from? They came out and he was sitting there perfectly sane and fully clothed. And he's still sitting with Jesus. Sometimes we can read the Bible and we get caught up in the result. It's like, yeah, the demons had to leave and all the pigs drowned. But what's so precious about Jesus is that he resides. He stays in the moment with this man, and he makes sure somehow that this man's nakedness is covered. He doesn't just free. He gives dignity to the man. And nobody likes it. It's like, nope, that's not right. We like the darkness. That this fact is like that you've come in and changed what we know to be the status quo, what is normal for us. Can you please go now? And as Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. But Jesus said, no, go home to your family and tell them everything the Lord has done for you, how merciful he has been. So the man started off to visit the 10 towns of that region and began to proclaim the great things Jesus had done for him. And everyone was amazed at what he told them. Jesus and the disciples went out where it was deep, and they went through something in that storm. And then they got to the other side of the lake, and they shone light in the darkness. And this guy who was in the darkness is now being freed, and he's in the light. And not only that, he goes now and tells the story around that entire region. It's called the Decapolis because there's like 10 major cities on that side of the lake, to proclaim the great things Jesus had done for them. And I have it in my head that he walks in to buy a loaf of bread and his cloak falls back and just his arm is just mangled, like all these lumpy bits and scars and weird ways the skin is healed. And someone says, "Were you a soldier?" Because it's like battle wounds. And he goes, "No, I was a prisoner and Jesus set me free." And he not only set me free, he sent me out to be light and to share my story, carrying the life-giving message further into the dark. Go out where it is deeper. Glow in the dark. Okay, so Jesus got back into the boat and he went back to the other side of the lake. And so like, which lake? Okay, so we're back where he started from. And the large crowd gathered around him on the shore, and the leader of the local synagogue, whose name was Jairus, arrived. And when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet, pleading fervently with him, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and lay your hands on her. Heal her so she can live." Jesus went with him, and all the people followed, crowding around him. That's as much as we ever know about Jairus, where he worked, and he was obviously a dad. But do you know that the word Jairus, the name Jairus, means one who shines, he who enlightens? Jairus, his name means he who shines, but he's in a dark place because his daughter is dying. And when death is around, darkness kind of just seems to seep in as well. Right? And he doesn't have any hope except for the fact that he's sitting at his daughter's bedside and he looks up at his wife and says, "I'm going to go and get Jesus." And so he does. He comes in and, "Jesus, please, my daughter is dying. Come and heal her." And Jesus went, because remember, Jesus is not about the result, he's about the reside. Jairus is desperate to get home, and Jesus is going with him. With him. He's walking with Jairus to go to Jairus' house. He's coming alongside this desperate dad and walking with him. And everybody else is coming too. But mainly it's because, Jesus. All right. And then there's a woman in the crowd who has suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She had suffered a great deal from many doctors. And over the years she had spent everything she had to pay them, but she had gotten no better. In fact, she had gotten worse. She had heard about Jesus. Someone had carried the life-giving message to her in her darkness. She has no money. She has no strength. I don't know if you've ever been iron deficient. But she has weakness in her body. She has emptiness in her purse. And in her darkness, someone has carried the story of who Jesus is and what Jesus can do. She had heard about Jesus. So she came up behind him and through the crowd and touched his robe, for she thought to herself, "If I can just touch his robe, I will be healed." Can you imagine the stories that she has heard to put it in her head that all I need to do is touch the hem of his shawl? Someone has carried light into her darkness. And when she touched Jesus, immediately the bleeding stopped and she could feel in her body that she had been healed of her terrible condition. Jesus realised at once that healing power had gone out for him. So he turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe?" His disciples said to him, "Look at this crowd pressing around you. It's easy to ask who didn't touch you." And that guy, like 100 people back, guaranteed he didn't touch you. who touched me. She had heard about Jesus. And I'm reminded of the paralytic man who was carried to Jesus and then lowered to Jesus through the roof. Talk about carrying the light-giving message. Like literally carrying to Jesus this paralytic man. But I just want to highlight the thing, when she heard about Jesus because someone told her about Jesus, just like those friends who tore open the roof to lower that paralytic man to Jesus, do you know what happened in that moment? People in the room saw Jesus more clearly because there was light. There was more light. You put a skylight in the kitchen in a dark place and it change the atmosphere when there's light in the room. These people opened up the roof, let more light in. People saw Jesus more clearly, and then he performed a miracle and they saw Jesus more clearly. In the other sense of the word, they saw him physically in the room because there was more light in the room, and then he forgave the man his sins, and they saw him more clearly because of the power that he displayed. Carrying the light-giving message, going out where it is deeper and glowing in the dark. Right, but Jesus kept on looking around to see who had done it, and the frightened woman, trembling at the realisation of what had happened to her, came and fell to her knees in front of him and told him what she had done. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your suffering is over. Light has come." But it's not just the result that Jesus healed her, because he's about residing with her, not just the result of the miracle. He gives her dignity. He gives her standing. He gives her the ability to actually get money, earn a wage, because you can't do that when you're sick and you're weak. And there's no such thing as Centrelink back in 1st century Middle East. Jesus sees her and gives her back standing in the society that she lives. There was a light that ended her darkness, and then a light that moved on in her world as well. Your suffering is over. Light has come. And while he was still speaking to her, messengers arrived from the home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue, and they told him, "Your daughter has died, and there's no use troubling the teacher now." He told them, "I'm going to get Jesus." And they're telling him, "It's too late. Jesus has missed the chance." "And don't be afraid," Jesus said. "Have faith." And Jesus stopped the crowd and wouldn't let anyone else go with him except Peter, James and John. And when they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw much commotion and weeping and wailing. I'm going to stop that there and then go back a little bit. Jesus overheard them and said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid, just have faith." Have you ever, just picture this, you're in a car and it's broken down and you're on the side of the road, and the NRMA guy drives past and he slows down and yells out the window, "You need a mechanic," and then this keeps going. Sometimes we can say things to people in such a way that it's like that. It's like, "Oh, don't be afraid, have faith." And then think that we've done a good job bringing light. Being light in that situation is actually stopping, residing, and demonstrating light to that person. Jesus says, "Don't be afraid, just have faith." And then in Jairus' grief, Jesus walks with him. They're heading back to a place of weeping and wailing and grieving. And Jairus, the dad, is like, just imagine what's going through his head. I wasn't there. I should have been there. I wasn't there. I should have been there. And so he's dealing with that, plus all the, my daughter's dead. Like, how do you even, like, make sense of that in that moment? And the guy across the other side of the lake, it's obvious where his wounds are. It's obvious what his head's at. You can tell by the upstanding, all of the crazy hair. You can tell by the lumpy, bleeding wounds on his arms and his legs. But Jairus' grief is on the inside. Jairus' wounds are on the inside. And Jesus, in his light giving way, steps in. What I know of Jesus, I reckon he put his hand underneath Jairus' elbow and walked with him back to his house. Walked with him alongside the grief and the guilt and the weakness, because when you lose someone like that, it takes the knees out of you, and Jesus is carrying him and walking him home. Don't be afraid. The reside is still here. The result, you can have faith for that, but I'm guessing that your mind's not there. I will have the faith for you. That's what it means to glow in the dark. When somebody is in the dark, don't just shout at them, torch would be good. Be the light. Step in and make Jesus visible in that situation. And they came to the home of the synagogue leader, and Jesus saw much commotion and weeping and wailing. He went inside and asks, "Why all this commotion and weeping? The child isn't dead, she's only asleep." And the crowd laughed at him, because sometimes the dark just makes more sense to people. But just because the darkness made more sense to people doesn't mean the light left. The light stepped in and started glowing. And the light stepped in and started glowing. The light stepped in and started glowing. And he took the girl's father and mother and his 3 disciples into the room where the girl was lying. And holding her hand, he said to her something that the pronunciation's fallen right out of my head, which means, "Little girl, get up." And the girl, who was 12 years old, immediately stood up and walked around. And they were overwhelmed and totally amazed. Jesus gave them strict orders not to tell anyone what had happened. And then he told them to give her something to eat, because light is practical. He gave Brian clothes. He gave the woman with the issue of blood dignity and standing. And sometimes you just need to give someone a sandwich, because they've been sitting in the dark. They've been lying in the dark. And what I know of Jesus, they had a meal together with that house. Because it's not about the result. Jesus has always been about the reside. God with us. God called him Emmanuel. It's the reside. Go out where it is deeper. Glow in the dark. So what does that look like for us here in November 2025? Okay, so it's shine like stars announcing the King. Here I am, glowing in the dark. This is the announcement. There is a King. This is where Jesus is, right here. You can find him. Follow me. I will show you the way. Shine like stars. Be a beacon of hope, you city on a hill. So someone afar off, a long way away, can look ahead and think, I know where to go. Be a beacon of hope. Carry the light-giving message of Jesus everywhere, anywhere. If you're driving, drive like Jesus is in the car with you and he cares about everybody else on the road. Yes. If you're in the supermarket and it's Christmas and it's crazy and the poor people behind the deli counter, carry the light-giving message of Jesus. Show love, show kindness. Say, hey, Dale, just take 5 seconds, have a deep breath. And now, can I have a kilo of chicken breasts? It's showing kindness. It's being light in a dark place. It's the ministry of presence. It's being light. It's residing with someone, walking with them as they're going through. It might mean coming alongside and holding up their elbow. And it's definitely meeting the needs of people in Jesus' name. Go out where it is deeper and glow in the dark.